Rich Eisen on the Saints quarterback Derek Carr's injury, massive impact on the NFL draft, ladies and gentlemen. It's always interesting to hear how national media portray a situation like this, right? So with Rich Eisen, he's seeing this from a bit of a different vantage point, all right? It's very different than if I was to cover the story or New Orleans football or another entity. So I'm interested to see how the coverage is percolated on the national scale. Let's go ahead and react along the way, shall we?
Big football news from over the weekend. Derek Carr, Saints quarterback, dealing with a shoulder issue that is likely to keep him out for the 2025 season.
Bro.
As we know, he missed the end of last year after he broke some bones in his non-throwing hand, but has been dealing with a shoulder issue since 2023, though he missed no games last year because of that.
Chris, gents, ladies and gentlemen of the Rich Eisen Show viewing and listening audience.
Yes.
This right here is the most significant piece of news affecting the 2025 NFL Draft, period. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Agree.
Because we're all assuming Aaron Rodgers is going to, at some point, say the words, I am excited to join the Pittsburgh Steelers.
It's April 14th.
I'm aware of us waiting.
Still waiting.
And
Here, Coach.
His timetable,
Not here, Coach.
I don't get, I don't understand. But as of this juncture, it appears to me there is no bigger piece of news since free agency that has affected the NFL draft quite like this news.
Yeah, but also no. Because now, let's just say you're Pittsburgh, all right? And let's say Derek Carr is not actually hurt and you think he can play next year. If you're Pittsburgh, would you rather have Derek Carr or Aaron Rodgers? So this is like the last thing Aaron Rodgers wanted to hear, because now he's thinking, well, what if they, assuming Carr isn't hurt, but Aaron Rodgers could be out of a job, right? Because now it's like, well, the dominoes have kind of fallen, the musical chairs have happened. A lot of teams have got their quarterbacks or backups or a vet or whatever, and now these landing spots are kind of gone. And the Saints, I'll go ahead and break it to you, the Saints are not a landing spot for Aaron Rodgers because of what they're going to have to do with the Derek Carr contract. They are going to have to eat this contract one way or the other. They're going to have to take to the face all of Derek Carr's dead cap and everything else that goes along with it without having him on the field. So the last thing they're going to be able to do is take that hit, turn around, and then sign Aaron Rodgers for presumably whatever the hell he wants. He ain't going to sign for $8 million. So however many 40, 50, 60 million dollars he wants, that seems like a lot. It's probably going to be like a 2-year, I don't even know. What was he playing on? I mean, he's going to want a lot of money. But the Saints can't do that. So Rodgers can't go to the Saints. That sure as hell isn't happening. So now Pittsburgh kind of made out like a bandit. Where now they can sit back and say, all right, do we want Shador? Do we want Jackson Dart? Do we want Aaron Rodgers? Do we want Derek Carr? Do we want Mason Rudolph? Do we want Jalen Milroe? What direction do we want to go with this? Pittsburgh now all of a sudden has a bevy of options.
Now, the question is, how do they evaluate Spencer Rattler in their building?
So let me go back to the Saints draft. I don't know if this changes. Well, I do know. It does change the Saints draft idea, but not the way I think you think it does. The quick reaction would be, oh, this makes the Saints much more likely to draft a quarterback at 9, right? I think it makes them less likely because with Carr as the security blanket, it's much easier to be like, yeah, let's just take Shador, let him sit for a year. Or yeah, let's take Jackson Dart, let him sit for a year. Or yeah, let's take blank quarterback and let him sit for a year. Now, whoever you're taking has to start or at least compete for the starting job. So now it's like, well, do we value whoever at the level to have them start? If not, if we're going to have them sit behind Rattler anyways, then let's take Will Howard or Kyle McCord or Jalen Milroe or whoever later on. Let them sit. Let's just take best available at 9, since there's a ton of volatility with the quarterback room. Let's do it that way. If you would have told me Derek Carr is on the Saints, boom, and starting, they're taking a quarterback at 9. Now, I think they probably take the best player at 9, and then they may come back around at 40 or wherever, move around a little bit, and get whoever is on their next up on their list, or whoever is higher rated on their list. We've heard Tyler Shuck is the number 1 quarterback on some boards. We've heard Will Howard. We've heard Jalen Milroe. We've heard all kind of names. So that's what I think the Saints will do now. Now it makes 9 way riskier to take a quarterback. So I was all aboard to take Shedeur Sanders' train when I knew he could sit for a year behind Carr. But now I would take Jalen Walker or whoever, Tyler Warren or Ted McMillan or Ashton Genty or whoever they like at 9, and then I would figure out, where can we get Tyler Shuck? Where can we get Will Howard? Where can we get Kyle McCord? Where can we get Jalen Milroe? Is it the second round, third round? Where do we got to move to get a guy? And then let them and Rattler compete.
How do they evaluate him? Because if they evaluate him as like, we put in time with him last year and we saw this amount of work on the field that shows an upside, and this amount of off the field in the building professionalism.
Yeah, so Rattler does have an advantage because off-season workout started this week, and Rattler was in the building, I believe on Saturday, was working out in Metairie in New Orleans. So he's got a leg up, because if he's there, and no doubt about it, tip of the cap to the professionalism and being there and showing up and all of that, if he is physically impressing, and all he's competing against right now is this draft class. So if Kellen Moore and the front office, who have been at all these pro days, if they've been at Cam Ward's pro day and Shedeur Sanders' showcase and Kyle McCord and Quinn Ewer and all these different events, Will Howard's, and if they go see Spencer Rattler and they're like, well, I mean, this is basically the same or better than what they saw at those pro days, why wouldn't you go with Rattler? The only reason you don't go with Rattler is if you're watching him now and watching the tape that you have from last year, because it is a whole new staff, so they didn't really get to spend time with him last year. If you're watching Rattler now and looking at the tape and you're like, I don't know. This guy's not Will Howard. This guy's not whoever. Then, yeah, okay, draft your guy. But if it's comparable or comparable, some of my friends would say, then roll with Rattler and take best available.
To make us think he can be the leader of this team, we've seen enough that we do not need to go and get Shedeur Sanders 9th overall.
Yeah.
Because at this point in time, this is not whatsoever anything but the biggest piece of news to affect next Thursday, especially since nobody's even traded in the top 32 picks yet. Nothing's moved.
I know, nothing.
Nothing's moved. We saw the Steelers move a second rounder.
What would be the best case scenario for the Saints is if the Giants take him at 3. If the Giants take Sanders at 3, that would push the board down, and it would be an extra player that the Saints would have available. Because if they take Sanders at 3, that pushes Hunter or Carter down, which pushes Graham down, which pushes McMillan down, which pushes whoever down, and then the Saints would be sitting there like, all right, cool, just an extra player for us. That'd be best case scenario, is if he ends up going 3.
For DK Metcalf, right? I mean, nobody's popped out a first rounder in this year's draft on the table, in a trade, in an exchange involving other draft capital and future drafts yet. You look at the draft order. Here it is. I'll hold it up on page 1.
Nothing.
There's not a single one team from another.
As is.
As of right now, the first draft choice in this draft to have changed hands is 39th overall Chicago from Carolina from the draft that they
2 years
traded
ago.
to go.
But how crazy is it that we're sitting in this draft? We're a week away. How crazy is it that we're sitting here and we are hearing a week from the draft that Tyler Shuck is on a lot of boards the number one quarterback available. Even if it's not true, all right? Even if it's not true, when is the last time that you can remember a draft where the number one overall quarterback is being compared to with like the fifth or sixth quarterback on the board? This draft is deep and volatile.
Yeah. Bryce Young. That's it. And then there's the Seattle from Pittsburgh, 52nd overall. Buffalo from Minnesota through Houston, 56th overall. Carolina from the Rams, 57th overall. That's it.
Wow.
So Derek Carr potentially being out for all next year. Massive. How do they not go and get Shedeur Sanders right now? Well,
I just explained it, Rich.
Oh. Unless they like Spencer Rattler that much.
The fourth.
It lines up perfect for Spencer Rattler. It really is crazy because, yeah, if this was a normal class where it was super top heavy and you had one or two like really good quarterbacks, yeah, take the second best quarterback on the board. But this draft class, think about everything we've heard from Todd McShay, from NFL anonymous sources, from whoever, from Mel Kiper, from Daniel Jeremiah. We have heard Kyle McCord's the best quarterback, Cam Ward's the best quarterback, Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback, Jackson Dart's the best quarterback, or at least the second best quarterback, Jalen Milroe, Will Howard, Tyler Shuck. It is like 7 or 8 quarterbacks deep, where seemingly they're interchangeable depending on what week it is, depending on what day it is. You've got guys who are 5th, 6th, 7th on the boards, 3rd rounder, 4th rounder, 5th rounder, and then all of a sudden 2nd rounder, 1st rounder, top 10, bottom 10. Like it's all over the place. So this is a very unique draft where positions like quarterback and wide receiver to an extent, you'll hear people say, no, actually, Ted McMillan isn't the best receiver. Actually, Matthew Golden's the best receiver. And you'll hear someone else say, oh, well, actually, Jalen Noel is. Oh, actually, Jaden Higgins is. And so it's just a lot of moving pieces to where if you're the Saints, if it's that much uncertainty, how can you take Sanders at 9 in that environment? I don't think you can.
The overall pick is right there for the taking.
Nice.
I mean, go get it.
I hear you. I don't know. But that's the way I took this news. Most consequential piece of news to affect next week's draft that I've seen yet. Name me another. I guess Myles Garrett re-signing.
I mean, it definitely is the biggest piece of news. I just don't know if it affects the Saints, certainly. But I don't know if it affects the entire draft.
That's one.
Yeah, maybe. That was a big
what
piece.
else? What else? The fact that Matthew Stafford stayed put, so the Giants didn't go get him. So the Geno trade.
Geno trade was huge. Because I think Sanders was penciled in at 6. The Geno trade then all of a sudden pencils Ashton Genty in at 6, pushes Shedeur down. I mean, you could argue like Justin Fields signing, Russell Wilson signing, Geno trade, like all that was huge because it eliminated quarterback needy teams.
Geno trade.
Yeah.
But that might not take the Raiders out of the mix for Shedeur Sanders either. That does allow them to maybe pop Genty into their system.
Right. I would imagine the Raiders still take a quarterback in this draft at some point.
Actually,
just not in the first round.
You know, the biggest result to affect this year's draft, period. All calendar year.
Stop it. Stop. Don't even say it.
Joe Milton beating the Bills.
Gosh, you jerk.
God. I telegraphed it too much.
As soon as you started, I was like, oh, wait a second.
Come on. The fact that I then addressed you with that line.
Yeah, no eye contact. I'm feeling so good today. Stop it. I'm in such a good mood.
Let's let him have a day, I guess.
I'm
Right?
in such a good
That happened
mood.
in 2025, actually.
It did.
Yeah, you know what I'm
God,
saying?
you're the
Because
worst.
the paradigm shift that took place once that trade happened.
immediately.
Man. You know, I really believe that scholars will study this for generations to come.
I agree. But certainly know Joe Milton's a Dallas Cowboy.
You know, what a great backup plan.
Catch the Rich Eisen.
It's crazy. I mean, we got a week. We got a week to figure this out. As of right now, I think the smartest thing to do is you take whoever's best on the board at 9, take the safe pick, take the good pick, bolster the roster, and then find your guy later on in the draft. Roll with Spencer Rattler. I think that's just where we sit now with the information available to us. I think that's what you got to do. Let me know in the comments below. But it's not Aaron Rodgers, I'll tell you that. Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.